Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Kalen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm great. How are you doing, Kalen?
I'm doing great.
Really, on this rainy Wednesday?
Yeah, but it's been sunny the last week, so
It's
we get a little taste of that, and now we get a little taste of spring. We need water. We're in a massive drought on the West Coast, so
Yeah, it's true.
any kind of rain that's not like downpouring
It helps the plants.
helps. Yeah,
Keeps my water bill down.
exactly. You know what else keeps our water bill down?
What's
Our
that?
guests that are here today.
What? Really? Wow.
Do you know why? Because usually we're drinking alcohol, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's the segue there,
The
guys.
best segue ever. We're marking that one down. Who
We've got
we
Kristen
today?
Dallas from Prima Strata Pizzeria, and we've got Marianne Carmack from Roast and Phillips Tasting Room now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
Wow, it really sounds like we just got some friends together. And we're
We
just-
do. But this is the
Hang out.
kind of core body of the Bread and Butter Collective here.
Yeah.
So obviously we have other members, but this is our 4 of the core 10 that meet regularly and discuss what we're doing in the industry. And yeah, we all got together 5 years ago or 6 years ago now. 6 years ago, I guess. Yeah, we're in our 6th year.
It just feels like that, but really, I haven't seen you since October, Kristen.
But it doesn't mean that
I
we didn't
know.
think about each other or text each other.
is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is everybody feeling about where they are? I think in our show today, I'd like to talk about where we are. Post COVID, we're now dealing with new realities, economic realities, tariff situations with the United States, inflation, rising labor costs, all those things
A disastrous provincial economy.
disastrous provincial economy, I guess. I don't know. Is it?
It feels like it.
Oh, Jesus.
Doesn't it?
We're going to get into it. So do you want to should we just do a little round table and just what's happened in the last year, what changes? And we'll start with Kristen. I think all of us, the one common denominator here is that we've all pivoted or modified our businesses in the last year or two.
Yeah, in
So,
some
yeah.
substantial ways.
And we're all still here despite that, or probably because of that. So I think change is not something you should be afraid of. I think it should be embraced. It's never always what you dreamed about when you first started, or even what you thought your business was going to be. But I think making those changes and pivoting quickly can be good. And then you got all the emotional stuff that's around that too. Kristen, you want to kick it off? What's been going on in the last couple of years? The last time we were on was probably a year ago, actually. The last
long ago?
podcast. It was
Really?
probably a year ago that we last talked.
I think the biggest thing for us, and I'm trying to think about how to tell like the short story, was that when we were starting Prima Strata, we thought again in that whole change thing of like if you're writing the business plan today versus when you wrote the business plan 20 years ago for us, and seeing where we are. Oh, thank you. That when we were first building Prima Strata, we were looking at these long.
You've got a really good PBS voice. I'm thinking of sorry. You watch Saturday Night Live when they do the two PBS and they're just talking about. So, yeah, it's really good. Sorry, Kristen.
From the top.
From the top. Sorry, carry on.
I actually had a vendor say to me in the midst of everything that we've been going through lately, like, wow, you're just really calm about this.
Yeah,
And I was
exactly.
Here in this moment.
The
However,
outside is calm.
mentally, I've taken a sledgehammer to all of this.
Done.
We closed Fort Street. I guess that's the biggest way to wrap it up. So we were at Fort Street for 10 years.
Yeah.
And wrote out that lease and felt as good as we could feel about closing a restaurant. And that was big.
Yeah.
It was big.
That was a big room.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a big room, so there was a lot there was a lot of stuff to deal with. Like we joke of don't have to buy silverware for a lot of years.
At
No
what-
more cutlery.
At what point were you like it on the journey? Obviously, you close capacity, sales reasons, profitability, all those things. Like how far in advance? Like how many years ago did you think that may be a possibility? And is it related to COVID at all, or COVID impacted it, the momentum of building that store out, or what are your thoughts on that?
For us, the initial investment of things is we tried to do 10-year leases. So we had a 10-year lease. And then obviously when you're optimistic and writing that sales contract, we had a couple renewals as well built into that. We did not take any of the renewals. We did that first term of 10 years.
Yeah.
And so about halfway into that 10 years is right about when we've got the loans paid off and it really looks like we're going to make some profitability. And that's exactly when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of okay because the bulk of the loans were paid off.
Yeah.
But then COVID happened and the whole world changed. And I'm sure like for a good way, but like the sales dropped. We've never realized that those 2019 numbers. And in any of our locations, we never realized that. So the room's too big. People changed, right? COVID was along in a period of time that people's habits changed. The economy changed. So people aren't out spending like they could spend.
Yeah.
So there are all of these super legitimate factors that are affecting it. And so, if we had gone back 10 or 11 years and looked at like, how would we open Fort Street today? Well, we wouldn't open a room that was as big, right? We wouldn't open a room that, right? And like a lot of leases, our lease was, lease rates climbed over the years. So here we were sitting at the more mature portion of our lease when we should have in theory been making more money profitable so that you're not so concerned about that your lease is ratcheting up because it's okay because you've balanced everything out, right? It's lower those first couple of years and that's okay. You're paying the loans off. You've got this whole thing going along. And then where we were sitting was like our sales are down and no matter what we did, there was only no matter what we did, but there was only so much that we could do to affect those sales increasing. And so we just were looking at a really huge expense and not being able to hit those real basic numbers.
Well, and having to re-sign another 5-year lease, knowing that too, and then not having the momentum or the vibe that it's going to work.
Yeah, and and we looked at everything. I mean, the idea of closing a room is that there's the pros and cons, right? The pros are all of the emotional stuff, it seems like, right? When you look at that list, right? When you do the con list, you're like, well, this is super clear.
Yeah. If there wasn't emotions involved, it'd be very easy. It'd be black and white.
And so Fort Street is actually 2 suites, as it turns out. But when we looked at it, if I had the crystal ball, right? The crystal ball would have been like, we're going to put all of the infrastructure in one suite.
Yeah.
And then the other side's going to be all dining room. Like, I don't know how that would have worked. But so then you're like, well, we're just going to give back this one suite and we're going to have this little tiny dining room that's like 50 seats. And that would be brilliant, right? So then the other side has their own bathroom and everything else. But instead, we open it all up and put it all together. And so there was really no way
That's such a great point.
to divide it, right? We were like, what if we divide it? Because we don't need both suites. We just need one suite.
Yeah.
And we could have done that if we wanted to build a whole new restaurant out. And
no, that's not what you'd
that's
want
not
to do.
where, that's just not, that doesn't make sense to us.
Would have been able to do it if you had made that decision prior.
100%.
Right? And you probably would have done it 5 years ago or
Completely.
You know what I mean? Or tried
right.
to.
And gone on that path and been like, how do we mitigate the costs here? How do we negotiate out of it? Yeah.
I think that's an important lesson because I think, when you're looking at decision making is try to have all the scenarios and try to look at it in a way, not just with the rose colored glasses, but what happens if something happens where we need to pivot or what if sales aren't there? Like how could we contract and expand it?
Yeah.
Because when you have a room that big, you need staff, right? Mm-hmm. And I know even when we built Zambri's, like our kitchen's big enough to do 300 seats and we're like 125. So you set it up that way, so then it becomes all of a sudden you need bodies because if you're doing 300 seats, they could act independently in that section. You don't need to see each other. They're doing their own thing. But when you're doing 125 seats, you need to see what the other if you're going to have 2 cooks or 3 cooks, you actually need 5 just because of the way the room is set up. Or
100%.
the back.
Totally 100%. Yeah. Like there's a minimum number.
Yeah.
And sometimes even that minimum number of that team that you need is still too much money.
Yeah.
Is still not giving you what you need to find that balance.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's totally it. When I look back of like, I wish we had done more of sometimes, you don't want to like, don't rain on the parade, keep the optimism up. But there's that like, okay, let's take off the glasses. Let's take off the rose-colored glasses for a second and take a deep breath and talk through. Because we do that now.
Yes,
that's
I know.
the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing is that we do that now, right? And someone was saying something to me about like, how are you? How's this? How's that? How do you feel? And I'm like, I had a little bit of a bumpy December with my health, but I feel pretty good and I was even frustrated when I got sick in December because we had a plan and we were actually executing the plan, but now we don't have one plan. We have plan A, we have plan A fleshed out, really, really well fleshed out. And we've talked about a B and fleshed maybe a bit of that out, but there's a C and a D every time now. Every time. So I don't think we spend too much time on that, but I wish we had done that years ago to say like, if it goes south, what do we need to do?
Yeah, and what are the steps, and are we able to adapt?
Yeah, how do we pivot?
Yeah.
What's that pivot?
Yeah, without tearing the whole thing apart, which would, I think, again, cost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Right? But you're not thinking that when you're setting out.
Right.
But you should be.
We should be.
And you shouldn't think that's a bad thing.
Right.
Because especially if you've got a growth strategy where we all kind of had multi-unit sort of ideas and have had multi-units. But to go, okay, well, if we're doing multi-unit, well, this one unit may be firing for this 5 or 10 year period, but then people move and people change, customers change, more competition, whatever. So you may need to, contract or expand different locations. So what does that look like? So it's not even like a negative, because I think entrepreneurs really get into their head about not being negative and they view negative noise as toxic. But I think that stops you from really analyzing the risk and also creating a scenario where you can actually contract and expand your business that makes sense so you can actually make money, or at least not require a whole bunch of capital expenditures to pivot. Like you have, I'll spend $100,000 to shrink my restaurant. Like, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's a disaster. But if you build it in ahead, you could probably do it.
But
for
100%
20.
in that optimism when you're going back 20 years ago and writing that business plan in that of like, because they ask all of the bankers and everybody you're talking to ask like, well, what's your end game? And so your thought is like, we're going to sell it. But then when we got into it and we were like, what if we don't ever want to sell this? What if this is something that we want to, like, what if this is the last job and we want to run with this? Because there are a ton of interesting intellectual challenges that make you think, that make you pivot, that make you try these different things, give you different opportunities for things, right? And give you the ability to do that, to consider those things. Whereas if you were doing a different job, maybe and working for somebody else, you wouldn't have that opportunity. But our thought was like, well, we'll just sell it. But then what happens? COVID happens and no one wants to buy it.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
and it's tough selling because tying it into our closure of Nanaimo, we actually sold the location, which, and then speaking to, when Sam and I talked about when you shut down your, the Hudson store, you just kind of ended, the lease ended, your situation,
Yeah,
lease
lease
ended.
ended.
Our situation, there's still 1 more year left on the lease, I believe, or 2. Yeah, 1 more year because we were there 4 years and we just did a 5-year. But we were able to recoup some, but we still took a $300,000 write down after being open for 4 years, because that's still how much debt we had to write off. So that year, then all of a sudden your financials take a step back because that just comes off your retained earnings, and then the bank's looking at you like, okay, well, this is different. And that was one of the resistances that I had to closing it, because I'm like, okay, if we close it this time, then all of a sudden the write down is bigger. We're kind of managing the losses and trying to hope, right? But hope is not a plan. Right? You can't.
that.
Yeah,
Not?
it isn't.
It's a way of life.
It mimics. It is a way of life. You can have a lot of hope in your life, but if you're viewing that as your business plan or your, whatever plan, it's not a plan, right? It's like, well, I hope people walk through the door. I hope things turn around. I hope this. I hope that. It's like, no, let's figure out what the actual plan is and then make decisions like that. But it's also heartbreaking, like that emotional thing, and I think all of us can go through that. We know what that feels like, is that emotional piece where this is your baby, this is your dream, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I have to make it practical. But then separating that, because a good business decision doesn't care how you feel about it, and a bad decision doesn't care how you feel about it either. But they both will evoke certain feelings.
It's this I feel like makes me feel a little bit like a whiny baby, but when you have to start making those decisions, and then you're rolling forward and you're executing and you're sitting down with your team and you're letting them know that
how do you put a positive spin
that
on it?
we've got to make we're making these changes. And I think in that moment, it wasn't, I was trying to keep it together. We were focused on keeping it together. So I could see that people would think that like, wow, like I'm not, do I say heartless bitch on this? And not get beeped? But like, I think that could come across as like, oh, you seem really, and then to spool that out, like then the next thing would be like tearing Fort down, like because we had to take it back to Shell per the terms of the lease, super on it. And as you start to do that, it's completely personal. Like that light fixture I picked out, this, like, and the people that we worked with. It
seems like such a waste, too.
And the people that we worked with to put it all together of like those bar tops are white oak, and we thought about white oak. We talked about other, like, there's a part of it, like, who cares that you talked about what type of wood to pick for the bar tops.
But how much time and energy went into that decision
but there was,
that you're just ripping out?
That it was super thoughtful, that everything in that room was personal. Like, it was completely personal. We thought about all of that. We picked all of those things. And then to be like, wow, I mean, the upshot for us is that we were able to, in the complete vortex of taking Fort apart, and I can joke about we don't have to buy cutlery for a lot of years, we were able to make some improvements at Cook Street. Like we looked at the dining room chairs and we were like, well, those are tired. What if we flipped those out? So we flipped out dining room chairs. So there's a part of us where emotionally, going back to that emotional part, we've put some light fixtures from Fort Street came to Cook Street, and we flipped some stuff out. So little improvements that maybe we wanted to make at Cook Street that we weren't able to do. But so there's for some of the team that we that came with us to Cook Street, they still see pieces of Fort. So for us, again, if you go out to that emotional touch point, there are pieces of Fort that are in Cook, and that makes us feel like there's still some longevity there, and we
That's kind of interesting.
Lost it. But it's completely emotional.
Yeah.
That's completely emotional. There's some money behind that too. There's some really good financial decisions behind that, but emotional.
Yeah, that emotional piece of seeing parts of decisions that you made, even though that is ended.
Yeah.
We moved a bunch of our stuff that we didn't sell to Courtney. So when we go to Courtney, I'm like, oh yeah, we had that. Even one of our assistant managers moved to Courtney. So when I see her, it's kind of like, oh, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
It's just like a little special, hey, we were in the trenches, we did this and all that. So I think, having that sort of emotional connection is what makes you human, I guess. But it's so disappointing, like so disappointing. I'm sorry.
It can also be a relief.
No,
the end of a burden.
100%. I mean,
can open you windows.
It's a rainy day. We're gonna bring everybody down today, just so we'll leave everybody crying. No, I guess when I view that is, I had a customer, because we sent out a newsletter, and I had a customer reply back, when are you going to open again in Nanaimo? Oh. And then I get hives when I hear that, because I'm like, well, when we were in Nanaimo, there wasn't enough people supporting us there. But obviously, I acknowledge that we were in a bad location, which this guy confirmed. Yeah, bad location. I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks, bud. But it's just like, like asking you, like, would you ever go back to Fort Street, or are you like, let's open another Prima Strata pizzeria? Like, it kind of changes
and so I guess there's a part that you could take that as flattery.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Of like people, it's been interesting to us to see to some degree how you think you're building this bigger brand, but then you've got also a little bit of siloing happening, because I've picked up a couple. Luckily, it's only a couple, but a couple of people saying like, oh, but they closed. Oh, but they closed, and you're like,
yeah. No.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Of like, you think of like, well, Cook Street's going to be 18 this year, and they're thinking that Fort Street's closed, and so Prima Strata has closed, right? And right behind it, we've had a presence.
Isn't that awesome to live in a bubble like that?
Yeah.
We actually don't. Yeah. We think everybody understands what we're doing, but they're like, oh, this is just one-off pizzeria. It's like, I can't even have it anymore.
I got that so often when I closed the Hudson. It's like, oh, so you shut down?
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
like-
not one location.
Yeah,
Just-
I
yeah.
got multi-locations.
Still doing it.
We still got other.
I just experienced the same thing. We went to Culinaire and set up on Thursday last week, and so many of our Hudson customers came up to us and they're like, "What are you doing here? What, like, you guys are still around? Dino, like Milos?" And we're like, "We moved to Phillips."
Yeah. Did
You're
you not?
still
Did you
here?
not see our Instagram?
I know. Are you not looking at our social media?
We did a video. We walked it.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really great to be able to see those familiar
Yeah.
faces again and be like, well, we're going to welcome you at Phillips. Like, we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still at Uptown. So it was a lot of talking at Culinaire because it was like,
What?
I
How
had to tell the
fantastic is
story.
that? What
Yeah.
an amazing opportunity, though. One
It
that
was
you
good.
didn't. I'm sure you didn't even think about that. Like
No.
we're gonna do culinary, and we'll. Like that's fantastic.
yeah, it was a great marketing piece for sure.
Well, and it kind of speaks to the fact that we have a story that we think other people resonate with, and then we're doing some social media stuff, and then we're doing this, and we're out in the community. But there's a whole bunch of people that have no clue or don't, and they shouldn't. They
Right.
shouldn't be thinking about what we're doing in business or how our business is doing.
Why not?
Well, I know, but when it comes to framing how you're going to get your message across,
Yeah.
if you just think it's getting across and that everybody's got it, you probably got a rude awakening coming,
yeah,
right?
no, because when the market shut down, it means
Yeah.
that I shut down.
Well, and that's
Right.
talk about that, Marianne, because obviously you were, I would argue, probably in one of the worst scenarios. I mean, you had a spot in the same building, but because their original concept there was a purpose-built public market with a landlord that wasn't really in it to win it, to support the tenants there, and kind of always had this idea. This is my guess. I don't know. This is just my guess, so nobody sue
I'll
me
back you
over
up
this.
on that.
I'm just my opinion. My opinion is that they knew that they were going to convert it into, or want to convert it into a grocery store or some other use, but we're just
No frills.
using the tenants as a placeholder, and
Yeah.
then that never, because we talked about it a lot. It never showed clear in the last couple of years that you were there that
Yeah.
they didn't give a crap. Which for you as someone who's you had 3 locations in that one Hudson, you were
Yeah.
also managing that as well. So kind of talk a little bit about that whole
Yeah, those grocery rumors circulated for quite a few years. And I just held strong and said, no, it's not true, and just concentrated on trying to run my businesses and staying positive
Yeah.
because I don't want to listen to noise.
Yeah.
But through the transition of COVID, really looking at the 3 locations, knowing that it was just too much. So we just started to close one after the next because we just needed to squeeze into a smaller location.
Yeah.
And it's just much easier when you don't have so much overhead, so many
The staff and-
and all those things. And then we had the opportunity to open at Uptown, which was great. So we have this little kiosk right next to Starbucks. So in the market, it was kind of like our commissary, and then we would transfer the food up to Uptown. And then I was always kind of like searching for another location to get out of the market just because it wasn't a very supportive environment. And I knew that my brand can stand alone on its own. And quite in a very Victoria way, it happened very organically. I only reached out to 3 people. One, Jason Chan of the Village, one, Tarn from Dumpling Drop, and also Matt Phillips. Those 3 specifically because they know my business, they know how I run my business, and I wanted to stay downtown. And funny enough, Matt wrote back and said, I'm not really a part of the daily ops anymore, but you should really reach out to my president, Jim. I was like, okay. And so I reached out to Jim and I started having these conversations with Jim and his team. And we were like, well, let's try a pop-up. Like, let's make Phillips what we're doing at Uptown. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, I'm going to gain some momentum. This is a great company to be working in partnership with. And then the closure of the market happened. And I was like, oh no. Like,
So you were working on that sort of partnership,
yeah.
before
Prior.
but you knew the writing was on the wall.
I knew the writing was on the wall. I would never say it to anybody, but I just knew it was there. That's why I was trying to make other plans. So when the market closure happened, I called up Jim. I was like, hey, I'm going to need some more space and I'm going to need some more power. And I mean, I couldn't have landed at a better place. They're
Yeah.
so supportive. They've got an amazing team. I'm representing them today.
Well, they kind of needed that too because they didn't really have a food program there.
They didn't. They tried.
Yeah.
And so the pop-up idea was to see, is this going to work? And so we worked together all summer, and the writing was on the wall. Their alcohol sales improved 25 to 30%.
Wow.
So it just means that it gives people another reason to stay longer.
Yeah.
And it went so well that we've decided to merge together as a partnership. And right now we're under construction. We're doing a huge renovation for a kitchen. So
Amazing.
I'm looking forward to a shiny new kitchen.
Yeah.
And we're renovating the bathrooms, which has been kind of fun. It's so nice to be a part of a team. I've been like a one person running all the things. And, you know, like I'd take a meeting with myself and be like, okay, I'm making this decision today.
Let's get the marketing department together. What do you think, marketing department? Well, I think it's this. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, oh my God, I have a whole team that I can work with. I have a marketing team.
Yeah.
You know, I have a tasting
And
room
budget
team
support and all that kind of stuff.
It's
right?
been amazing. I've been welcomed so warmly that it's almost like I was meant to be there.
Has it added back all the years of being on your own in business, took away from your life?
Oh, Jesus.
That's so loaded.
Sam.
Oh my God.
Sam just sits in the weeds and he just comes out with these like big bombs of questions.
Well,
God, I love
Do you want me to go dark?
I'm thinking for myself. I've done this by myself for so long
Yeah.
that if all of a sudden I had a partnership and a team,
Yeah.
the relief and the stress that would fall off my back would probably give me new life.
I feel like that is something that is happening with me. Like it's taking a lot. Like I'm still dealing with some noise in the background over here with like we don't need to go there. But it is a bit of a relief to be part of something and be part of a team. I still very much run the tasting room like it is my own business. So I actually I work for Phillips now.
Okay.
So I'm called the director of hospitality, everything hospitality.
Love it.
Yeah. So I have a team. I inherited their team, but I also was able to bring my team into Phillips, which is the most important thing for me.
To
right?
protect their jobs.
You know how
Yeah.
important my team is to me,
Yeah.
and to protect their jobs and to protect their families. So that was the biggest reward for me.
So you're now in charge of that entire tasting room?
Yes.
The beer sales, retail,
Yes.
food,
All of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have a private events room there as well.
Oh
aren't
yeah,
you?
thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, thanks.
Nice job.
Yeah, which is really exciting. They've never really opened up their space to private events before, and since it's a big part of my background, we're going to be able to do that. So we also have a private showcase room that holds about 50 people, and then you can also rent out the tasting room, and then if it is within your budget, we can also do something in the backyard. So this summer we're actually going to be Victoria's first Pickle Fest.
No.
So everything pickled on August 15th or fermented, and we've already sold 1,700 tickets. It went
Oh
on
my
sale. Yeah,
goodness.
it went on sale last week. So it's really fun. I get to get creative and work with other people. So I'm just super thrilled about it.
Well, they're lucky to have you because I think the entrepreneurial lessons that are learned applied in this environment it's going to go far. And I like they're just genuinely open to that kind of stuff
Yeah,
too. Not
yeah.
everybody is. You know, they're kind of, oh, this is the way we do it, and this is, you know, because they've been around, I don't know, 25 years.
Yeah.
As well, 30 years, 27, 28 years, something like that. So you can get stuck in your way, but they're very, especially because you've got all the knowledge of the hospitality thing, and you know you've got a great brand and great product, which is beautiful that can stay alive as well.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
nice to keep that
Yeah.
alive, and you know, who knows what'll be in the future.
Yeah.
But I've landed well, and I'm in a good place.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
You know?
the years piling back on.
Yeah, to answer your question.
Yeah. Oh man.
I think it's also about compartmentalization too. Like you have to do the two worlds, especially if it's going to be sort of a completely reorg, right? Because you've basically reorganized how you do your business. You've partnered with somebody, and now you've taken on a new role, which is both personally expansive, but
Yeah.
different than running your own business from the standpoint of having to have 17 hats on,
Right.
right?
Which is exhausting.
And I assume you get a paycheck now.
I get a paycheck.
Oh my
What
God.
is that?
See,
What?
I would kill for one of those.
Can't wait to get a paycheck.
Right? Oh, I look up to you, Marianne.
Aw, Sam.
So, what, Sam? You talk a little bit about where you've gone in the last.
Everyone knows.
We've
Okay.
had shows about it. We talked about it.
Yeah.
You've been forthcoming with it.
I kind of closed, concentrated, and I'm trying to get through it.
Yeah.
So I closed a couple locations, tried to concentrate on my one location on Hillside and my coffee roastery.
Yeah.
I did what you did, Chris, and I took little bits of my old places and put it in my new place to bring new old life and character that I wanted to maintain, and the emotional attachment to some things like a table. It was nice to be able to move things around, concentrate on one cafe, try to make that the best that I can make it right now. Really focus on my wholesaling as best that I can. I don't like to have to caveat everything I say with like the best that I can,
Yeah.
because it feels like the last year I haven't been operating to the best of my ability anyway. Maybe the last couple of years, and so I love having these conversations because I can see where I'm at, knowing that I'm not
alone.
I'm not alone,
Yeah.
and that I'm not doing a bad job. And even if,
No.
if it may not be the best that I can do right now, it's probably just fine, right?
Yeah.
And I do hold on to hope maybe a little much, perhaps, and I could turn that hope into more solid action and some more concrete things that I can achieve and shoot. Like I don't have a lot of goals right now except get busier.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really feel like a good goal. It feels like where I want to be.
Feels
That's
like
not
the
really
hope is a plan
it feels
kind of
like
thing.
like hope springs eternal for me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work out. So I think in this next year, I'm just gonna have to really knuckle down and go back to what I know, which are systems that I kind of have been ignoring. Like, when you have a quite a big team, and you depend on that team, and you're organized, and everyone knows their job, and they all report in, and you got a really good handle on it. Then all of a sudden, you don't have a team, and then all of a
Now
sudden,
you're the team.
Now I'm the whole team, right?
Yeah.
And I still haven't really gotten over that. I don't
Yeah.
think, and I definitely
learned how to
need
pivot.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely learned how to pivot,
Yeah.
but I didn't learn how to do my job the way I need to do it. I don't think, like I used to.
Yeah.
I think there's been a real gap that I need to bridge, and I'm almost there. I don't feel like I'm doing it, like I said, to the best of my
But
ability.
the best of your ability, because I'm stuck on like, but your product's fantastic.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
your product
thank you.
isn't like your product hasn't suffered.
No, in
So
fact, I
it's
think
still-
my product's gotten better.
Right.
Actually.
So what's the best part that you're not? I'm just
being organized,
Hmm.
being for me actually, it's just being more direct with my employees. I am really terrible at that. I'm not direct. I'm not on it as quickly as I need to when things need to change or attitudes.
Yeah,
need
the
to
direct
change.
conversation piece.
that's always
Yeah,
hard though.
yeah.
That's
I always have a real hard time with that, and I was able to get around that by having a really good team
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
that could help support me in me having to say things I didn't want to say. I knew that they had my back.
Yeah,
And now
you've
it
got
feels,
somebody that can have those hard conversations. You can say,
Mhm.
"Hey, we should maybe do this," and then they execute that because
Mhm.
that's better their
Mhm.
skill. I think it's easy to, when you've got carrying all the balls, like you're a juggler, but then you're also trying to twirl plates at the same time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's an amazing talent,
Yeah.
right? But it feels like you're failing when the plates are dropping and
Right.
you know, the bowling pins are dropping when you're or the knives or whatever you're juggling.
chainsaws.
Right?
Mm.
But so it's easy to feel like you're defeated, but look at what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like you're trying. I don't think any of us, well, all of us have varying backgrounds and varying education and varying experiences, but the one commonality when you're opening in a hospitality business or restaurant is that all those experiences can help, but there's a million other things that you didn't know or can't predict or aren't suited for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's the trouble because I'm in the same boat. Like for years, I just let my team do the stuff, and I was playing poker, and I was and I had other businesses that I was working on and focused on, and I was just happy that team was happy and they're motivated and they're high fiving. But am I looking at the margins? Am I making the right decisions? Am I really pushing the envelope? Am I, putting myself into my business? Because after 16 years in a business and with Big Wheel or 28 years with Zambries, you're just like, oh, okay, it's easy just to mail it in. And
Yeah.
for me, the realization this past year or two was like, I can't, especially in the last 6 months, I just realized I just was giving away all my power and control to others.
Mhm.
And I would just, they're going to decide that, or they're going to do this, or I got to empower them to do that. And then later I'm like, okay, well, that didn't really work out. It's not a criticism of them per se, but it's when you don't take responsibility yourself, but also understand what role you play in it and you abdicate that to others, then when you're there to clean up the mess or make these decisions, you've only got yourself.
Mhm.
For me, I only got myself to blame for it. So the last sort of few months, I've just got my head out of my butt and I'm like, I got to get into my business again
Yeah.
because there's so many good things that I know and I have a knowledge base of that I've hoped the team would garner that, but I haven't spent enough time with them for them to have that. So when the cleanup happens, when you have to close a location or you have to crunch numbers, like if you wait 2 or 3 years, like these things I'm doing now, I should have done 2 or 3 years ago, but we're now actually moving really fast now that I've actually got myself back in the business. I'm enjoying it way better too. I feel like I've got accountability. And again, it's about the hope. Like, oh, I hope the plan, what does the team want to do? I'm like, no, I need to. And they've had conversations where I'm like, hey, I'm going to be the boss in this situation
Mhm.
because this is what I think we need to do. So before where I've deferred, and it's a culture shock too, right? So the team's like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
Kalen coming up,
Yeah.
right?
Where
And
where'd you?
But that's what I'm concerned
Yeah.
about, right? It's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't want to push everyone away, but
No.
I really need them to do this, and this,
Yeah.
and this, and they're not doing it unless I tell them. They'll do it once, and then they won't do it again.
Well, when you're
Just like-
ultimately responsible for paying the bills and also this is your vision, you have to trust your gut
Mhm.
on the fact that you do have that vision.
Mhm.
So vision can't make up for a skill set deficit, but assuming you're successful at what you're doing, which I think all of us are because we've been doing this for a long time, then you don't need to worry about the insecurity of whether you're making the right decisions or not, but just trust your judgment and your gut on what the vision is. Because your vision, and I think this is the really important thing, is I often go back to original business plan. And what was our vision?
Mm.
Like, why did I do this? And what was I getting into this business for? And what was my goal? And then now looking back and going, well, how have I been achieving this or not achieving it? And then just going back to that basic plan,
Mhm.
because that plan is actually the best plan, in the vision, but then also all those little basic fundamentals of business like profitability, margins, and really getting into the weeds a little bit about that, and then build that, and then cut what you need to cut. Like if you're investing $1,000 over here, but it's not returning $2,000 over there, then you just need to cut it
Mhm.
because trading dollars is not making dollars, and it also makes you feel like you're doing stuff that isn't moving you forward.
It's true.
So, but I think for me, anyways, it's about that like imposter syndrome or I basically gave up the response because I also didn't want the fear of failure either. Because
Mm.
if you take that on, then you're ultimately responsible. So when you build a team out, it's easy to say, oh, well, this happened or that happened, or it's because of this or because of that. When in the end of the day, it really is you abdicating your control and your responsibility for me, for the fear of failure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you're out in the community going, oh, you're this or you're successful, but behind the scenes, we're all like, geez, man,
Yeah.
I barely made payroll, or, oh, how am I going to, I need a new grill. I got to come up with money for that. But you can't show that to the world because you've got to be strong and successful in this. When you could be in a better position if you just make those hard decisions, but also be critically thinking about what do I need to make my life better, like happy.
Yeah.
And whether it's doing a partnership with Phillips or closing 4th Street or closing and pivoting, these things aren't negative, but you have to get over the emotional impact of it. But always, I think, in my opinion, for me anyways, it comes down to my personal responsibility. And if I'm going to be losing money or investing this stuff, I need to really take control of what I can control and then guide the team in a way, but make sure that I'm actually doing the work, because I don't think I've done the work for years.
That control is so important. I think back to when I was like the happiest in my business, not necessarily at the job that I do, because that would go way back when I was carefree and young. Making cash, hand over fist.
Single, no kids.
Yeah. No. Just in business.
Oh, the business. Sorry.
But the control part, the happiest I've been in my business was when I was doing a really the ESO.
ESO, EOS,
and like
employee entrepreneurial operations system.
That's the one. The one that we haven't talked about in a couple of years.
I just looked at those files yesterday.
And the one that I miss. I miss that so much.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I just don't go back to it on a smaller scale, because it's very, very flexible, that system. You can do it with a couple people, or you can do it with a huge operation. And I have a couple people, and like I think about that all the time. What would it take for me to jump right back in? And
just do it.
Just do it and take the leap and lead by example. Like, be the leader.
Yeah.
And they'll follow. They have to follow.
Which we are, right? We are, and it's just
Well, but it's about stepping in those shoes again. And I think when you've got all that emotion, because it's exhausting, right? Like the exhaustion comes from wearing all the hats, but being ultimately responsible for every decision, or impacted by the decisions others are making that I'd say abdicated to, but you've hired them to do their job. But are they doing it effectively? Are they doing it in a way that's going to make money? Are they thinking about it the same way? Because making money or making sure that whatever investments you're doing aren't going to, blow up in your face 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or whatever. But even after that's happened, if you've pivoted, then obviously, money gets a little tighter. Your business is a little different. So how are you going to adapt to that? But then really owning the fact that you're going to be the one that's going to make it work in the end, and just remembering why you started the business. I think going back to that basic. So coming back for me, it's just back to basics. And we brought up the EOS thing again, and we've got our task list and we've got dates and we've got rocks and responsibilities, but you lose that form when you're putting out fires, and you're just, okay, what can I do here? But coming back to that basic. So building a business where you can do that, where you can actually remember that. Even for me personally, like, not saying too much, but my business and the way I've run my life has abdicated. I'm going to get emotional, but I'm not. Business emulates life. So when you're not showing up in your own life, it translates into business. So as much as abdicating that responsibility for business control, also giving up, focusing it all on outwardly, but not making sure that your bucket's full,
right?
Prevents you from being able to show up in the best way, not only for work, but for personally.
Yeah.
So my pivot or not even pivot, my realization was I wasn't showing up at home.
Yeah.
And I was feeling like I was doing everything for everybody, and I just took home for granted. But when I made that, when my wife and I came to that realization together, not with any of her guidance or at all, or therapy or whatever, it sort of showed. But once I made that shift, like all of a sudden I started seeing things differently. And then it showed up at work where I'm like, hey, I don't need to make all this complexities and all this stuff to make myself feel busy, or I'm doing this just because this is what I've always done. It's like getting back to the basics, like taking care, like making my bed every morning, exercising a little bit more, making sure that there's coffee in the pot when my wife gets up, making sure our pond is clear, stuff like taking out the garbage,
Yeah.
just being present. And then all of a sudden, when I started seeing things, and I was just like, it just was transformative because I really was showing up at home, and then I was able to really prioritize what I needed to do in business. Who needs my assistance? Like, what project do I need to get involved in? And take it from beginning to end, and then check that box. Done. Like, clean your room. Like, all these things that you hear about all the time. I read a really good book, which was called The Courage to Be Disliked. And it was a Japanese, it was translated from Japanese, and it's a Japanese philosopher who partnered with a psychologist, I think, or sociologist, or another person. But it was just really, it was just a discussion between a philosopher and a student. And he just talked all these, and some of the life lessons were very simple. But the one thing that struck to me was just staying in your lane. Like, everybody's got their own tasks, and focusing on your task. And you can oversee other people's tasks or look at them, but don't try to do their tasks for them. And everybody's got a responsibility to do their own tasks. And that was for me, it registered with what I was doing, because, and even with my wife, like, I think she was trying to get into my tasks too much. And then I was feeling like pressured and defensive about that. And then I'm trying to get into her task because I view what she needs to be doing and treating me differently or whatever.
Yeah.
But if we just both stay in each other's lanes, then we can better support each other, because you just start looking at different things, looking at things differently.
You're stronger when you're in your own lane, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing things that you're confident and you're good at.
That's
and you
right.
like, and then you have the ability to support anyone else in any other lane.
100%. And that's the thing, is when you're showing up empty and deflated, you're not taking care of your tasks. And if you're not taking your tasks, then your partner, whether it be in business or in life, is going to be going, hey, why aren't you showing up here?
Yeah.
But then I think all of my showing up needs to happen out there. So I'm giving everything out there and then showing up empty. And then I'm not doing anything for myself either, because it feels empty for me.
So
Right.
Kaylin and I had lunch last week, and you were telling me all about this book, which I really want to read.
Yeah.
And it's really resonated with me. I'm seeing it both professionally and personally in my marriage as well. And I am that type of person that, like, if this one over here is not going to complete the task, I'm just going to do it and bulldoze through. And that's just not healthy for myself, because it just puts more, because I take on too much, and it's not healthy for that other person. So
No,
like,
it doesn't empower them either.
it doesn't empower.
Yeah.
You actually take the power away
Yeah.
from them.
And they feel defeated.
Yeah.
And then you've now just doubled your workload
Yeah.
unnecessarily.
Right.
And you think you're doing the good thing, and then get defensive when they push back or say, hey, well, what's left for me? And you're not
Totally.
showing up for them in the right way.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. It really resonated
Yeah.
with me.
Good.
We all have personal partners.
No.
Right. And no, you don't. That's
I
gonna
do.
be news for
I have a very
someone.
personal partner. She's very invested in my personal life.
Wow.
Opinion
you really
wise,
threw me.
anyways.
Now I don't.
No,
didn't
sorry,
know what I was
sorry.
gonna
Sorry,
say.
Sam.
It's okay. We all have personal partners. Are they part of your businesses as well, or do you keep that separate, or is there overlap? And because for me, there's no overlap. My wife doesn't have anything to do with the business. She's supportive, but she's got her own thing.
Yeah.
She's got her own lane
Yeah.
that she's really strong in, and it's not my lane. So for me, I take all the business stuff and
Yeah.
I just internalize it, and it's just me. And I don't feel like I can share that much.
Are you afraid to share?
sometimes
Yeah.
I'm afraid to share when
Afraid
it's not
for
good
the
news.
opinion or the
Reality
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like, oh shit, we're in trouble, or
Yeah.
oh, it's
Yeah.
it's awesome right now. Then it's obvious, but
Yeah.
I guess it's obvious both ways, really.
Yeah, I don't think
Like,
anybody keeps any secrets.
No, I don't
you
think
know?
so. But so I'm just curious as to how involved our partners are in our businesses.
We might need a therapist for this one.
Yeah, Chris is probably more like. Well,
You are making the funniest face here.
yeah, you're making the funniest
I'm
face here.
taking it all in. I'm trying to condense down the story. The story behind Prima Strata is that it was Jeffrey. Jeffrey's absolutely the master behind Prima Strata. It was something that he wanted to do. He researched the market. Part of it was that was the type of style of food that we really liked, and that resonated with us, and that we couldn't find here. So it's that whole entrepreneurial thing. Like you find something missing, a gap in the market, and you do that. And then the way that Jeffrey, the way his brain operates is he's a huge researcher, and he grabs onto a project. So he researched, and he had been in hospitality. He worked in hospitality for years as a young person before he went off and did another professional career, and wanted to come back to it. Had always kind of kept that romance of working in a room and that camaraderie and all of the positive things that come out of hospitality, and still had held on to that. And so the quick version, the not the nitty gritty version was that I basically said to him, "Put up or shut up. Like I can't. I can't. We can't keep talking about this. Like we had already started making dough, and I had a beehive oven in our backyard, and he was talking about how to trick the stove inside the house to make it hot enough to, because you can make it 900 degrees if you didn't know this.
Yeah.
Because the
it's a
cleaning
winner,
function,
right?
you like somehow trick the cleaning function because it gets that hot. And we had all of these. I mean, it was amazing, right? We were making amazing pizza, but he wasn't satisfied with just us making amazing pizza at home, like so many people are, right? You get your little uni oven, and you're like off to the races, and it's a great thing. You use your sourdough starter, and you've got something really special. But Jeffrey wanted to do something more than that, and so finally, I just said, "Well, you got to stop talking about this because it's making me crazy. So let's do it." And he had already written a business plan. And so then I walked in and we looked more at the business plan and we talked more about it and we did more research together. And so the brilliant part about mine and Jeffrey's partnership, I think, is that he's got this incredible creative force and this creative vision. But he also will do the research behind it. So he knows the numbers. For years, the first couple of years that we opened Prima Strata and I was running the administrative side of things, he would still be able to, he could go back 18 months and tell you what our sales were for each month. Like that, that's just the way his brain worked. Where I was like, he's like, well, what did we do in sales last month? And I could get that one for you.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to go back 6 months to see how things are tracking, I was like, I need to sit down at my computer and I need to pull up the spreadsheets and I need to look at all the numbers. And because I have them, but I can't tell you, like, what did we close? We're really good. We try to close every month. Within the next following month, so we're pretty hot on our numbers, generally speaking. But that's not the way that my brain works. But his brain also does not work about how you pay payroll taxes, or how you pay payroll, or how you make sure that rent gets paid. Like that's not his skill set, and that's totally my skill set. My skill set is all about that the administrative stuff. So. Over time, as the business grew, and there wasn't that need for that creativity, because that what we created at that very beginning, those values that we still go back to, the mission, like the things that we started out with was like, what do we want to do? That's what we're still doing. That's not really all that different. It's Neapolitan pizza. Been making it for 100 years. We're really into it, in the craft of it, and so operationally, he's done that. That's the project, and that's complete for him.
So when you're dealing with some of these decisions, obviously you guys will be talking.
We're talking because he's still my business partner.
Yeah, and then but you're executing.
I'm executing.
Yeah,
I'm executing.
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I know
That sounds like a hybrid model.
It's
Sounds
a
really good,
challenging
actually.
model,
Yeah.
and you have to be really clear on when you're asking for help and what you're asking for.
Okay.
And I think, making sure you know what you're actually asking for too will help. Because if you're asking for help, then be clear that you're asking for it, and
Right.
then not soliciting advice or input where you're maybe not, because then you're going to chew up a whole bunch of time.
It's
and,
it's a dance. It's a balance, right? Because he's still my favorite person in the whole world.
Yeah.
I still think he's the smartest person I've ever met. I still think of all of these
Aw,
things.
Jeffrey.
But yet but yet he's also the person that can press every single button, just like I can press every single button for him. So I need to be really clear. And there are times when I have to say, I need to tell you this and I need your feedback, or I need to tell you this because this is a problem that I can't solve, and I need you to put that in there and, run it all the way through there, and then
He's like your built-in AI.
completely.
Your
He's
genius.
loving
Your-
AI right
Except
now.
not
He's-
artificial.
He's loving AI right now. He's on a garden project, and boy, there's all kinds of information that comes out of that. But you have to be really, and there's stuff that you have to, for us to, sometimes it's that I need to talk about some nitty gritty number, and then I have to realize, and this is hard for me sometimes, that he's not the one.
Yeah.
He's not the person. Like maybe it's Marianne or maybe it's you that I need to talk that through, because he does more of an emotional, like, ooh, I think I might need to be scared about that and I need to really forget about that. Or
Yeah, it sends it down a different road.
I don't even give a rat's ass about that.
Yeah,
Kristen.
why are you worried
Like,
about that?
That is
Or-
like so, and that's kind of not necessarily always a bad thing either, but also like that's so nitty gritty that I could give a shit about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get me out of the weeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I partnered with my wife and brother-in-law to open Zambri's originally, and they're still partners with me in all the businesses. So we've also gotten divorced in that time frame. So I feel like I got the best of both worlds. I got an ex-wife as a business partner, so we get to trigger and point and just all this kind of stuff. And then I have a wife that's not. She's in healthcare. She's not in business and all of that. But I think that's even a more delicate dance, because the first dance we both know and we love each other and respect each other. We've like
That's
you
an
have got-
impressive relationship though.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
You have all come to that part where you have that love and appreciation for each other and the knowledge of each other, and knowing that what roles you play in each other's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then who's good at what,
Yeah.
and everybody stays in their lane. And we've beaten it into each other probably over the years, but it's a really good place. And then now for me navigating, because coming from that place, very independent. So, and my wife, or my first wife, and I have been divorced separated since 2010 or 2011, and divorced since 2015. And we've navigated that relationship, and as hard as it was, it's sort of established and we know our lanes. But being that independent for that many years, coming into a new partnership that's not from the industry, that is doing something totally different brain, different, all that stuff. And then trying to allow yourself to share what you need to share without stressing them out, or also the emotional control. Like I found, like before this sort of awakening that I've gone through in the last 6 months, I've been very, emotional about things, like during COVID or when disasters strike in. Nobody would criticize the emotional part of it, but all those emotional swings when you're not in the business with a partner that is not in the business, like your wife too, Sam, is hard. But we're thinking this emergency is the biggest emergency in the world. And then we follow they were on the ride of that roller coaster with you,
Right.
which makes it hard to get advice or even to put yourself in a position to hear or to share, because then you start closing off.
Yeah.
And then you're not getting the support. And then you're like, oh, well, and this is what I fell into. It's just, oh, this is just what I do. And this is the burden I carry. And I'll just sort it out and deal with it. And then over time, you're just like, how many burdens am I carrying? And who am I carrying them for? And then how am I being
What's the
filled?
relationship that you want to be in?
Yeah.
Like, is this the relationship you
Yeah.
want to be in? And so, there's a part of it where it's like, okay, I need to find the appropriate outlet, but the other part is like, I need to be able to share stuff too, because you're my life partner.
Yeah.
Like, you also happen to be my business partner, but you're my life partner, and so how do we work this through?
Well, and focusing on that too, because I know Marianne, when you're looking at the different roles that people are playing and what, the amount, like you've just gone through like a really massive reposition, and your spouse, who I know you worked with for years in your own business as well. So having them along for the ride or not along for the ride and just navigating that kind of stuff is
Yeah,
it's
it's difficult.
challenging,
It's so
right?
challenging. And similar to Kristen, Ryan, my husband, he's very much loves ideas.
Yeah,
He has great ones, he has mediocre ones, he has really bad ones, but like he's always an ideas person and I'm the executor.
yeah,
And sometimes so many ideas makes me very overwhelmed because I
yeah,
know that that's a lot of work to do. And so I feel like sometimes I'm stuck in this conversation where I'm shutting him down constantly and then that makes him feel defeated because I'm not supportive of all the things.
yeah.
But I can't be supportive of all the things.
No,
And I have to stay in my own lane and now I have this new partnership with Phillips and a whole new position that I need to focus on. And sometimes you just have to quiet down over here so that your partner can kind of focus and move forward.
yeah, and I think the good thing too is when recognizing that those two things are different,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to apply different energy for them. The one thing for me is I've been really enjoying spending time at home because my focus has changed, and that's allowed my wife to start building trust again in our relationship and the things that we talk about that are kind of unrelated to work per se.
Yeah.
But then when it kind of meshes in, I'm less afraid to talk about stuff, and we're not getting in a fight about my work, like, so eliminating that noise
Mm-hmm.
has been nice because it's actually allowed me to do better work here. And as an ideas guy, I was pumping so many ideas into my business. And because I had that power,
Yeah.
they would just run around like chickens with their heads cut off to try to implement and try to please my whims.
Right.
And a few years ago, I realized, or after we did Courtney, we're like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? And the team, because we hired better people too. So they're like, hey, what are you doing? Whereas other people would just go, oh yeah, we'll just go through it. And
Right.
then the amount of work you create for yourself, and then really, is it beneficial? Is that new idea that you've invested X dollars in going to actually pay off? Like we're doing that now because we had some change at Zambries, and we're looking to break up the position. Do we need a GM or do we just need a daytime person that does events, whatever? And then we're like, well, how much more events can we do? Well, we can't. We're kind of almost full. So it's like, well, do we invest on someone who's an awesome events person that could increase those sales? Well, then how much could they actually increase it? So are we going to pay them, 10, 15, 20, $25,000 more a year to get a net profit of 10,
Right.
like
Yeah.
you'd have to increase the business by 250,000 to get
Is the juice
20,000,
worth the squeeze? Is the
right?
juice
Is the juice worth the
Yeah.
squeeze? But when you're just coming up with new ideas and expand, you would just overlook that. You say, yeah, we need to do the, without looking back and going, well, how much am I going to get
Yeah.
out of the return? And I've done some sort of coaching with this other business that I've just tried walking away from to try to quiet the noise. But I just helped on this last little bit of just looking at what is your labor per hour, what are your sales per labor hour, what is your food cost, like break it down, and then per hour, and then you figure out where you're blowing money out the side, and then what would be required to right the ship. Maybe it's closing that store or closing that day or
Mm-hmm.
adjusting your hours or whatever. But if you're always just like either have a hope as a plan, or if you're just trying to like, let's pump more money to social media or marketing, well, are you getting the customers? Are your expenses lined up with where your sales are? And are you just creating noise for yourself to act like thinking you're busy and you're swamped, but when you're actually just not dealing with the basics,
Right.
you know?
We've siloed in, so I hope this doesn't seem like too much of a non sequitur. I would have to say too, as we think, as we're talking all through these things, the one thing that I'm thinking about for me is that in the ebb and flow, in the expansion contraction, I have two people that I've worked with now for, I have to think about how, like 15, 13, 15, almost another person that's 10 years. That one is our GM, the other is our ops people, and they've worked with me long enough in the coming together and in the separation of like everybody going to their own corners and having that separation, that they know so they can now very clearly be like, juice is not this room with
Yeah, yeah.
the squeeze. You
Yeah.
know, like, I love that you're thinking about this and that's creative, but we're
Well,
not
and
like how we're
it's delicate
like,
though.
and in a real like all the things that you would say, like in the trust tree and the
Yeah.
whatever that is, but there's that ability to very clearly be like, or let's talk through it, or knowing those strengths and weaknesses to be like, okay, let's look at the Uber Eats contract and the exclusivity
Yeah.
of it, and is this and this and this, when you're looking at all of these different things and trying to make that decision, and talking with, like, sending a note to Jan and asking him a couple of questions too.
Yeah.
So knowing, like, when you're asking for outside how to input, and then that internal, and then making that decision, and knowing, like, okay, I'm not gonna look at this because she's gonna look at that, and that's her best eye. That's the best eye for me to have on that.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do that. And I'm incredibly thankful and lucky that in the process of building Prima Strata, those people have stayed with us. And so
Yeah.
it's really great history too to look at, and all the way down to the nitty gritty when someone will be like, well, that's not how the close works. And you're like, and that other person is like, well, I did that. And that's actually how it works.
Yeah,
It's
it's how
still
it's
the
supposed
same
to
thing.
work.
Like, that's
Yeah.
how it's supposed to work. We're still doing the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Surrounding yourself with
Guys.
people like this, like surrounding
Yeah.
yourself with people
Well, you gotta
that
find
are willing to
support.
be
Yeah.
vulnerable and willing to share and willing to, yeah.
I think vulnerability and then recognizing when you need to put the work in, but making sure you're doing it in the right way.
Yeah.
You know, and getting out of your own way, and not being confined by what you thought the narrative was or what you want the narrative to be, and showing up for yourself, but also your partner, and then your workers or your staff or your partners in business or any of that stuff. I think it's a good lesson.
Yep.
And it's always inspiring to be with my sisters and brother here.
You know what? You guys
I
have
can just
been
do
so
it,
amazing. And I think, as we wrap up, kind of recognizing that throughout the last 6 years, we've really shown up for each other, I feel.
We have.
And I think that has helped all of us in different ways. But it's really try to find, for those listeners out there, try to find your group of people, but be vulnerable, be transparent, and it's going to go way more, because guess what? We're all going through the exact same thing
Yeah.
or have. And we've got other people have experiences that maybe you haven't had yet, but just seek help, ask for help, but also don't make it complicated, man. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
One foot in front of the
Yeah, one
other.
foot
Yeah.
in front of the other, and keep it basic, because sometimes it takes a year or two to see your ideas to fruition. But if you're always changing the roadmap, you're really never going to know what is
No.
really
Yeah.
working. You might overstep something that will actually work.
Yeah,
to
you'll
keep-
lose your way.
Yeah, lose your way.
Mhm.
All right, and not be afraid to make the hard decisions too.
Yep. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
appreciate you
everybody.
guys.
I really appreciate you guys too.
Well, we'll do this. We won't wait. I don't know, 8 months, 9 months, a year. We'll do this more regularly.
Yeah,
That's
Love
good.
it.
Well,
Thank
what
you.
A
Thank
fun
you.
time.
Thanks, guys. And we get the PBS voice.
What's my voice?
Your voice can be PBS, but I think all of our voices. My voice is never PBS.
I've always got told that I've got a face for the radio and a voice for the newspaper.
You, and somewhere in there is our podcast.
Somewhere in their podcast one is where we end up.
Oh, well, thanks, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you for listening. And be real kind, Sam.
I will. You be really nice, Galen.
Cheers.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strata, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, truffles-inspired catering, and Zambres.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.